Hello, everyone, and welcome to a brand new episode of Set Lusting Bruce, your podcast all about Bruce Springsteen, his music, and mostly his fans. I am your host, Jesse Jackson. We're doing another series of these episodes celebrating 10 years of Set Lusting Bruce. And my very first episode was with a guy named Rob Southgate, who was my podcast leader at the time because I was part of Southgate Media. And I am proud to have one of my other podcast leaders now, Christian Swain. Christian, how you doing, buddy?
Yeah, great, Jesse. First of all, congratulations on 10 years of your podcast, Set Lusting Bruce. It coincides weirdly with 10 years of Rock and Roll Archaeology. We launched that, I think it was next month. I think it's October of 2015. So similar. Now, how many episodes do you have?
Over 1,300.
Okay, we have 40, but
I
very different type of
Yeah,
podcast.
I am lucky. Like when I listen to your podcast or Andrew Hickey's great The History of Rock and Roll in 500 Songs, you guys are doing
Wish I could have
immense.
Andrew's podcast on our network.
Oh
Really,
God,
so.
yes. He does, you guys do such amazing research. And I just pick up the mic and talk to somebody. But they're both important.
We're like surface, mile wide, inch. Okay, maybe
Yeah.
a couple of feet deep because we are
Yeah.
archaeologists, but we're music, culture, and technology of the late 20th, early
Yeah.
21st century. You're artist specific.
Yeah.
One band. It's kind of me and my cover band, which plays a lot of different stuff, as we like to
Yeah.
say, tributes to all the greats, versus a tribute band
Yeah.
that just focuses on one.
One of the things that I was really honored by is a couple weeks ago, I went to the Springsteen 50th anniversary
That's right.
symposium,
Yeah.
and the both the director and Elaine said, "We really think we want your episodes as part of the archive, the same way that, like, Mike Ryko or Studs Terkel had these columns about ordinary life during the Depression or World War II.
Yep.
And
Yep.
they
No
said
studs circle well. Yeah.
this captures the feeling of Springsteen fandom during this era. And so I'm like, yeah, sure.
Smart. That's smart of them to capture everything. Let's face it, Bruce is one of the definitely top 20, definitely top 100, if not top 20, depending on who's writing the list,
Yeah,
top
exactly.
10
Yeah,
artists of what we'll call the rock and roll era
right.
that will be remembered hundreds of years in the future.
And so I think it would be cool to think of 50, 75 years ago, some college kid doing a paper and was listening to people being talked about their Springsteen fandom. That's cool.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
sure it'll all be AI'd and
Yes.
and you'll be replaced sooner or later, like the rest of us.
One of the things though, not what are your feelings about AI? And not necessarily, we won't talk about the music industry, but we'll talk about our industry,
No, we
the
can talk about them.
communication industry, the
Yeah.
podcast industry, communicate. What are your
Mhm.
thoughts on that?
We have been working with AI in some capacity for the last 2 years.
Okay.
It is going to be a part of all of our lives,
Yes.
and there's no escaping it. So that's the first realization that everybody needs to get to. There's plenty of AI slop out there, which means you need humans to curate the AI. It's to me, and having worked with it pretty intensely for the last year, I just treat it like a tool, not too dissimilar to the way I treated Google when it came out, or I don't know, spell checking and
Yes,
early on.
exactly.
It's for efficiency's sake, it's important, but the concern about it taking away human artistic endeavor, I don't believe that's ever going to happen. I
Yeah.
really don't. Playing around with it enough, listening to it, seeing the improvements, which are scary. The improvements are really make you go, oh my God, is it going to get there? But there's something about, and let me use another artist to explain my point. Neil Young. It's been on this crusade for 25 years on feeling the music with analog that you don't get with digital. And he has written a book about this. And there are plenty of other acoustic experts that agree that the digital experience is just, you're not getting the full picture or the full soundscape that you would off analog. And the way that it was explained best to me was a digital version is like looking through a screen in the sense of its zeros and ones. And so if you look at a screen, it's a bunch of little squares, right?
Right.
There's the open part that you see through, but then there's the structure of the screen that is the square, right? So that's like the digital presentation. So you're actually missing a little bit of the view through the screen that you don't get with the window. Now, some people will say, yeah, but you're talking about frequencies that are most people can't hear, which is true, but you may not hear it, but you feel it. And
Yes.
you may feel it when it's missing.
Right.
Okay. And so I feel that's the same thing with AI, especially with artistic creation. You can tell when it's AI. And I think you're always going to be able to tell when it's AI. I think it'll get really good. And I think, look, for cheap pop songs or jingles or things like that, sure. But if you're talking about an actual artistic presentation, the whole point of art is by humans expressing emotion in some sort of physical manifestation. And AI is just never going to be able to do anything with emotions. It's going to need a human to do that. So, is it any different than Pro Tools and dicing and snapping to put every note in its exact perfect place? And I tell you, we went through a period of music being pretty much perfect between somewhere around 20, I would say 2006, 2007. I swear I'm going to do this one day, is find out that exact moment and with that studio, when that engineer and that producer went, we fixed everything for the first time, because
Yeah.
that is what recording has been attempting to achieve for 150 years or
Yeah.
120 years, was to get to perfection, to be able to perfect, to control every element within the studio. And so they
Mhm.
did. And then we got a decade of the most soulless music
Yeah.
that mankind has ever released. So there's your evidence right there that the machine really needs the human to create an authentic artistic expression.
Yeah. I
So how's that for an answer?
I think that's a great answer. And like I have played with it where what I find the two things I use it best for is I was really bad at writing up the little
Oh,
text that goes with the
descriptions.
podcast.
Yeah,
And
summaries and
so
descriptions.
and so
And titles. It'll do
yeah,
all that for you really easy. I mean,
and
just feed it the audio and ask
yeah,
for SEO optimized
yeah,
title, description, and summary, and boom,
yeah.
you're done.
Descript, I'm using Descript now for part of my
Yep,
editing, and
yep,
it does a
yeah,
really good
yeah.
job. I will write up what I do is I will write up my thoughts without thinking about a lot of editing and just I pour out my emotion and
Which is
and
key.
you go over to Copilot, you put
Hmm.
it in there and it says, "Oh, that was very emotionally written. I've cleaned it
Here,
up a
let me
little bit
clean it up
for it."
for you.
And
Right,
then
right.
and I'll read it and my wife goes, "That sounds like you." And
Hmm.
I'm like, "Yeah, because it took what I wrote and just helped a little bit." Yeah, I think it's always scary, but it's different. It's great.
Well, we have AI'd my voice. There is AI Christian out there. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to hear it. A lot of the folks on the network have.
Yeah.
We've been manipulating it for a couple of months, but we're using it in certain things like working with Spooler FM
Yeah.
for game creation. And you were a part of one of the games that we developed for
Yes.
Bruce Springsteen.
Yes. And
So
I'm hoping you'll talk a little bit about that.
sure. And first of all, let me just say what a pleasure it is for Peter and I and the entire Pantheon team to be working with Spooler FM, which is headed by James Boggs, who was head of Apple Podcasting for 18 years, and Andy Bowers, who started Slate.com, Panoply, and then went on to create Megaphone, sold that to Spotify for $220 million.
Mm.
So these guys are legends in the podcast business, or the audio space, I should say. And for them to come to us and say, hey, we've developed this product, we want some case studies to perfect it, is a great position for us to be in. We jumped in with both feet, and Peter and his eldest son, Parent, who's a developer himself and a programmer, worked to create the first proof of concept, which was for the dead 60th anniversary in the city of San Francisco. We signed a contract with the city to help promote the upcoming event, and we created a podcast. We actually created all the podcasts through another of our partners, Gigaverse, so that we could have video and audio available, and along with a lot of other neat tools that Gigaverse does. And then we put the podcast out on a weekly basis. It was 6 weeks prior to the event, and it was told per decade of the 6 weeks to get to the 60th anniversary. And then we created a trivia game that was supported by SF Travel, the travel group that works with the city, and promoted throughout the weeks leading up to the event. And for deadheads to have some fun walking to the show, playing with their friends. And at the same time, there was some PSA within it that we used, such as Graham Lesch's event that was going on later that night, or Jerry Day, the up at McLaren Park, and some other things as well. So that was our proof of concept, and we perfected it over the 6 weeks, and we're ready to go out and start looking for clients. And one of the clients that we looked at was Bruce Springsteen. Given the zeitgeist, given the movie that's about to come out, 50th anniversary, Born to Run, we also have some ties with the Springsteen family as well, between yourself and our advisor Dick Wingate, who was Bruce's first A&R guy in Columbia, and we're presenting to them. And we've got a whole bunch of other clients that we're building these things out for as well.
I loved the game, and we had a lot of fun playing with it. Had a couple of people. I was there and for Monmouth, the 50th anniversary. Dick and I did not get to connect through no fault of either of us. It just there
Yeah,
was a lot of
he said
people
it was
there.
crazy. It was very active weekend.
And so he and I are going to try to get together. But it's really cool to do that. By the way, I just had someone, you were talking about that sound, and I need to get his information to you guys. I don't know, maybe you guys have run into him, but Martin Porter was
Mm,
there, and he wrote Buzz Me In inside the Record Plant Studios. It's a
okay.
story about the Record
The
Plant
record plant in
Studio.
New
Yeah,
York.
and California.
Oh, that's
And
right. There was
so
one in California too.
and
Yeah,
and he was talking about,
I've
we
been to
really
visit
got
there.
nerdy about the sound, and like he says, all right, everyone get the back of a record. We're going to go through what each person does. So it was a lot of
Oh, the
fun.
liner notes
Yeah,
of
liner notes. Okay, what
yeah,
does the engineer do and what does the
yeah.
producer do and everything? It was a lot of fun. You mentioned that. What else is going on at Pantheon? It's a
So
lot, huh?
yeah. Like I said, we also started a mirror sports network that kind of built on the successes that we learned from the music side of things. We always knew we wanted to stay in arts and culture, and
Right.
when we took a look at we took a look at a couple of different things, and we're still going to pursue some of these. Like we have Getting Real with John and Beth, who are two famous reality television stars from the real world. That show's doing really great, and so we have an interest in television. Obviously, that makes sense from music, right? Same thing with movies, Broadway, anything that's arts driven or entertainment focused. We just eat that stuff up. But weirdly,
Hmm.
when we looked at the demographics, the sports side of things was very attractive to us. And we got lucky and hooked up with a data sports betting company called Fantasy Points.
Okay.
They don't actually do the betting, but they provide the data for the fantasy football leagues. And
Oh.
so they put together several daily podcasts because especially during football season, like right now, their numbers are just skyrocketing. It's total hockey stick because it's the beginning of football season. It's like the prime moment of fantasy football. So we started with that, and we've built out. I think we've got almost 20 shows now that are. We've got some wrestling shows. We've got a super fan show that we just started a couple of weeks ago. So things like that we're building out. So we're going to mirror what we've done with the music show to the sports show to the sports network, and then we may create, I don't know, a television network, a reality television network, or some other thing. And we just feel like categorization worked so well with the music side of things. People could cross pollinate both audience and producer hosts. It's a little ecosystem system in themselves. If you're interested in one part of music, you're probably interested in other parts of music. So we
Hmm.
see that. And it's the same thing with sports. And we feel that's the case with many of these other subject matters that we find in podcasting. Apple broke them out and they're obvious. What we don't like is a mishmash of everything. We find that that makes discovery really difficult. So by doing it in a coordinated, organized, curated manner, we feel that we're becoming a premier service for an audience to go and focus on to find. Let's face it, there's 2.5 million podcasts out there. So how do you find that? And that's a lot of what we're doing with Gigaverse, with Spooler, adding the sports side is more. We live in a gig economy, and I think all companies are finding that you can't just make one thing and live in that siloed world. You like the gig economy, you have to have your fingers into several different pies to make it all work. And we're just following where that goes and providing these new tools for our podcasters to engage bigger audiences, to attract bigger audiences. Imagine not just having the podcast, which is a megaphone on the top of a mountain saying, "Hey, everybody, come and listen to what I've got to say." Podcast discovery is very difficult because it's a very passive type of entertainment form, media form. You're just putting something out, and for the longest time the best you could get was like at Apple Podcasts, there was a review somebody could leave you, but you
Yeah.
couldn't ever answer them back, good, bad, or indifferent. Spotify a couple of years ago decided to allow polling to start with, now comments, and so there is some interactivity so that you can help build your audience. That's why YouTube's so successful, is because you can build your audience, you can interact with your audience. That's what took us to Gigaverse, which is it's a beta software that's in process, being built as we speak. It's out and available for those who engage, but they haven't made their big
Yeah.
push out in the world. They plan on doing that next year. This is, I call it a podcast creation tool. We do most of our podcast meetings inside there now. There's still some that we're still working with some audio stuff and some video stuff because, again, it's a startup and they're building out their platform here. But the eventuality of where it's going to go, the interactivity that it's going to provide, the audience interaction that you're going to be able to have, way better than anything else. It's taken a little bit of YouTube Live, Instagram Live, Twitch, and putting that all together, a Clubhouse, Zoom, and rolling it into a single package. And then it's using AI. And on the back end, we get all kinds of assets that we can use, both video assets and audio assets. So it
Yeah.
also puts us in a bit of the video game. We just created our first short. We about ready to release a 20-minute documentary film on the Grateful Dead experience that we did, the
Hmm.
6 weeks. We documented the whole thing and put it all together again for the city of San Francisco, just showing what we can do for a client out there. Which we started making shows for Metallica, the Struts, like that a few years ago, and we're finding more and more of these clients out there, and we want to bring as many tools to make their productions successful. It can't be just a lonely guy with a megaphone on the mountain anymore. Having Gigaverse as our theater as opposed to just a stage is an advantage. Having Spooler FM as an interactive piece of this. In fact, you're going to start seeing a lot of this rolled out under the Rock N Roll Archaeologist brand. Again, we've been doing that for 10 years, just like you. And there's a lot of depth that we have with that production that we're going to employ. We started off with these long chronological shows of
Sure.
the history, the entire history of rock and roll. We started adding shorts a few years ago, which are not chronological but within topic. We're now going to have the Rock and Roll Archaeology trivia game, which I believe is going to come out on Thursdays, and we're going to have programming every week. In fact, we just signed a deal with Metal Blade Records to do Metal Mondays, so they're going to have a game on Mondays. And Rock and Roll Archaeologist will be on Thursday. We'll build out the other ones as we go along the other days of the week.
Cool.
So we'll have that. Then we're going to have a 5 minute daily Rock and Roll Archaeologist exposes an artist, and that will be even more broad than we get with the shorts. I think it's a question of how do you gain attention in this attention driven economy. And that's putting out as much content as you possibly can in various forms to gain attention from various micro audiences to grow to a bigger audience.
I'm going to move over to the fan side of you in a minute, but I'm curious. I always like asking these kind of questions. What surprised you the most about once you've gotten into this building a network? Is there something that you and your partners have said, holy crap, I can't, this was pretty cool, we saw that you had not counted on?
I'm not a young man. I've been in this game for a long time. I've been in a professional situation for a long time.
Yeah.
I had a first career in tech, and I had a lot of fun in that business. And for the longest time, I got to see incredible innovation. And I got to go to some really cool places to sell my wares. Largest data centers in the world, wind tunnels, Top Gun, airbase, universities, and everything. It was a lot of fun. But the innovation started to wane, the excitement started to wane, and I looked to make a shift in my career, and that led to this. And I got to tell you, Jesse, almost every week something arrives that just makes me go, wow, this is amazing. This is going to change everything, including the passion to do this. I should have burned out at this a long time ago, and that's just not the case. And there have been days when literally I just go, I don't know, I think we might have come to the end of the rope, and boom, then something happens that changes our fortunes, changes our direction, and we continue to grow. And we pretty much have continued to grow, certainly since we started the network in 2017, moving to Megaphone in 2018, I believe, and then incorporating in 2020. That those things really made big changes. But what I've seen in the last year, they say to make it in the rock business these days, it is sweat equity for 10 years. And here
Hmm.
we are, Jesse, 10 years on.
Yeah.
And I think that sweat equity is really beginning to pay off.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of these little things that led to these three big things this last year, which is mirroring the music network with sports, our relationship with Gigaverse, and our relationship with Spooler. Here's the thing that I found out interviewing hundreds of rock stars now and
Yeah.
being very interested in that, what makes it work? How does one become, hey, look, what I wanted to be a rock star, okay? My whole life was how to become a rock star. There's got to be some methodology. And of course, my thought was like, oh, I'll just read about it. I'll
Yeah.
read every book, I'll read every liner note, I'll figure it all out from that. That only gets you so far. Practical knowledge is really important. So then, of course, I started playing in bands, and I tacked it in my 20s seriously, semi seriously, and tried to get a record deal and all the other things go along with that. And it didn't happen. And so when I came back to this, my interest was, okay, so what was it? What made it? And I'm telling you, to a person, there was no plan B. It was just the driven desire, fire in the belly, that you were willing to sacrifice everything just to do this one thing. And you know what? I was not willing to do that in my 20s.
Right.
So some of these people, they're really special and they're really dedicated and they're really drawing from themselves. Bruce is a perfect example. And we're going to see a bit of that in the upcoming movie, specifically about drawing that personal inspiration that you think you can convey it to a universal audience. And that's the trick. The trick is finding those emotional beats and connection points that you're going through that probably everybody else is going through as well. And the greats are the ones that can make that connection, and you feel it, and you feel it when you hear it, you feel it again, and you'll feel it 20 years, 50 years later if you haven't heard the song in that length of time. It'll all come rolling back to you as soon as you hear it.
Jason Isbell in an interview said the more personal I get on my topics, the more universal they become. And it's
Mm-hmm.
true. All right, that's a perfect segue. You've covered the different films you guys on some of your shorts to talk about. So What are you thinking about Deliver Me from Nowhere? Have you read the book? And
I have not read the book. I'm sorry. I'm so busy
yeah,
that
I
I've
get it.
actually gotten away from the first. Oh, geez. Until I quit doing Deeper Digs in Rock, which was about 2021, I think is when I quit doing it, although I'm bringing it back. But until 2021, 2021, my entire world was reading rock books
Yeah.
or whatever. So I've gotten away from that because business calls.
Yes,
I'm not just
absolutely.
a podcaster, I'm the
Yes.
CEO. So so I
Yes.
gotta, and that's taking up more and more of my time. We've been able to, I definitely want to keep the rock and roll archaeology thing together. That's
Yeah.
that stays. I devote my time to that. We did bring Deeper Digs in Rock back into that. So I will be doing an interview show, but I'm going to do it quarterly, which means I only have to read one book
Okay.
every quarter at the worst, right? So I don't have all the books that I should. I try to keep up with the docs now. I'll tell you, because we might be moving a little bit more into the docs world. We're working with another partner of ours, Entertainment West. They made the Immediate Family, Trap Jazz. They're working on the Wolfman Jack, Graham Parsons, all kinds of Candlebox is coming out soon. America is coming out
Yeah.
soon. So we're finding that, and it's no surprise, 10 years and 20,000 hours of music podcast content would lead to the potential of being involved in music documentaries.
Sure.
But no, I have not read that book, but I am
So
looking
thought
forward
of
to
the
seeing
movie. Yeah,
it.
thoughts on the movie.
I've seen the trailer. I've seen the trailer just came out
Yep, they
yesterday
just had
or
a
something,
brand new trailer.
or where we get to see what is it, Jeremy,
Yeah,
who's playing Landau,
the guy from Succession, Jeremy Strong.
where he's got a little bit more of a role in it. So you're like, oh, okay, there's
Yeah,
a little bit of Landau there. And rock docs are, it's a hard business.
it is. It is
So
very much.
there's a lot of misses, few hits. I should say biopics, I should say. Rock
Yeah,
docs, that's one thing. There's also the formulas maybe getting a little long in the tooth.
yeah.
The rise, fall, and redemption story. I don't know if I can sit through another one of those. Although, hey, look, although this was not exactly that, I really enjoyed the Timothy Chalamet led Dylan pick.
And
I thought that was great.
that's the hope that this is,
Yeah,
right?
I think that's what everybody's hoping for.
Yeah.
Yeah,
'Cause-
and not Spinal Tap too, because apparently,
Yeah.
boy, that did not do well this weekend.
Yeah.
I didn't think. I questioned the decision to go theatrical in the first place, and we did have a little bit of we have some assets involved in that. Just so you know,
Yeah.
there's a tribute album that we helped produce
Yes.
that's coming out
Just
for Teen
yes.
Cancer America, and a podcast, the second season of The Real Me, that'll be part of that,
Yeah.
where the kids, the adults and the adolescents and young adults
Yeah.
recreated the majesty of rock. But boy, did that
Yeah.
boy, less than $2 million over the weekend. That's
Yeah. Yeah.
so
His
anything could happen. Don't know.
So Stephen Graham, who's playing his father, just won the Emmy
Yeah,
for
last night.
Adolescence. I'm excited about it. I think it should be. I hope it's going to be good. I have read the book.
Early word is that
Yeah.
it's good. So
Yeah.
it's a question of, does it resonate with audiences?
Yeah.
And that's always the big question mark. You don't
Yeah.
know. A lot of it's timing. If the public has that appetite
Yeah.
to delve into, and let's face it, this is not, it's not born in the USA.
No.
It's Nebraska.
Exactly.
This small slot. I think it's brilliant, to be honest with you,
Yeah.
because it is like a piece that not the general public doesn't know a lot about.
Yeah.
So it would be a great place to explore. I like the idea of focusing on a period of time
Yes.
of the artist, as opposed to trying to tell the long 50-year arc
Yes.
of the artist. So I like
Yeah.
that idea. In fact, I have a treatment for David Bowie, if Duncan Jones is listening,
Okay.
that basically is just, let's just pretend that Ziggy Stardust was a real person and
Yeah.
just focus on that Ziggy Stardust, maybe the album before Hunky Dory and Aladdin Sane, that whole, so that's how Ziggy came about and ended, all in this three acts that pretends like that person, which David Bowie created as a character, was real.
Yeah.
So I think that's a neat way to look at these biopics, as opposed to these grand arcs like you got with the Elton John story. We had all of those because it's interesting with that you say that because it sort of mimics rock and roll archaeology. When we started with rock and roll archaeology at the very beginning, we could tell these long stories of the artists themselves, the Johnny Cash, the Chuck
Yeah.
Berrys, the Elvises. The once we got to about the Beatles, it started to become impossible to tell the grand story. We had to start picking and choosing, and we actually switched from very specific artists to geography throughout the
Yeah.
60s, especially the later 60s, London, New York, LA, San Francisco, what was going on there. And then in the 70s, we've moved to genres to
Mm.
try to tell the stories. Again, it's an evolution, and it's no surprise that the biopic needs
Yeah.
to evolve as well.
Yeah. I said I liked Walk the Line, but I said what would be cool is someone do just Cash doing live at Folsom Prison. That
Oh,
whole,
that whole,
yeah, like
yeah,
that, an hour and a half film of that would be fascinating to
I
do with
agree.
that.
I agree.
My friend, this was a blast. Thank you so much. I know you're very busy, and
Oh,
it
I
was
always got
very
time.
you to
Yeah.
take time to visit with
10
me.
years, 10 years.
Thank you, my
So
friend. And I am so proud.
I'm just glad you got that call
Yeah,
to light a little bit more fire.
yeah, I
It's
did.
it's the universe talking to you is what's
Yes, it
happening.
was. That's what I said. And I just am so proud to be part of the Pantheon family.
Yeah, we're proud.
You guys, we put out some great podcasts, and we do literally have whatever you love to hear. We have a podcast about it.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah,
yeah,
yep.
yeah, story songs, mixtapes, just everything. So
We
yeah,
really
I
do.
appreciate you, my friend. Thank
We
you
uh
so much.
we are the new Rolling Stone magazine. So it's
Yes, we
here.
are.
It's Pantheon.
Yeah,
So.
there it is. Any final thoughts before I get you out of here?
No, I will just say to your audience that we are on the precipice of a very exciting time in, let's call it, podcasting, which might include the video versions. Yeah, I'm an old purist. I used to believe that podcasts were an audio production on an RSS. But I lost that war. But that's okay. Again, it's all about evolution, right? So we've moved into video. We've got that piece too. I still find the audio side of things the most interesting to me because it can be long form. It's much more free out there because it's cheaper to begin with, and it's weirdly much more authentic in many ways.
Yeah.
I feel like when you start doing video, now you gotta shave, I gotta put the makeup on, and from there now you're building a character, and you're
Yeah.
you're getting away from the essence of what it's all about. And let's face it, music is the invisible art. It is an audio production first and foremost. And I guess we can, on our next visit, we'll have to discuss the advantages and disadvantages of the arrival of MTV.
Yeah.
Um,
Oh, that would be a
uh,
great episode.
how
Well,
that, yeah,
okay.
those are my final thoughts.
Good. We'll book that in 2026.
All
All
right.
right. Have a wonderful night. Thank you, my friend. I
You
appreciate
too,
it.
Jesse.
Listeners, check out the wide range of podcasts we have. There really is a little bit for everything. And be safe, be kind, and we'll talk to you soon. Goodbye.